Hello friends, bienvenidos. My name is Jen, aka Jen Calo on social media, your local witchy friend and intuitive guide through the occult. As always, my lovely husband and co-host is David, aka Premier Pulls on social media.
Hi everyone, on today's Spotlight series, Jen explains Walter Mercado.
Welcome to the show, grab a chair, make yourself at home. Jen's got stories to share, you'll never feel alone.
Happy June, happy Pride Month, and I'm so excited to be covering such an iconic figure in the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, crosses a lot of boxes, or checks a lot of boxes. LGBTQ icon, Latino icon, astrology icon, just across the board.
Yeah, and one of my role models, honestly. So very excited, and I hope I do Walter justice with explaining his story.
Now, this is our second Spotlight series episode. I loved the first one, the Millennial Saint. I went back and listened to it while I was editing it. We were pretty blasphemous on that one. I think we got a little unhinged, but it was a great episode. I think it was really cool that you were able to recount a little bit of your knowledge regarding your Catholicism and then just learning about such a interesting, prolific figure and kind of continuing the series. Walter Mercado was one of the first names that popped up on our list for the Spotlight series. So, you know, I have my own thoughts. I know you have your own thoughts, but yeah, I'm super interested to hear about this prolific figure.
Yeah, so he has a documentary on Netflix, Mucho Mucho Amor, which is in English and Spanish. If you haven't seen it, highly, highly recommend it. But according to the documentary, he was born in 1932 in Puerto Rico. From what I saw, his mom was Spanish and his dad was Puerto Rican. But, you know, either way, he grew up in Puerto Rico and he has that in his soul. He grew up in a poor farming village, but everyone knew that he was different. Like, he explained that his brother would do like the guy things, and he was more interested in like reading and animals and just daydreaming and things like that. But it seems like his parents accepted him for who he was, which was cool. But from a young age, he claims to have had like healing powers, and that folks in the village would like come to the door and ask like, "Can Walter heal me?"
Oh wow, kind of some parallels to our first Spotlight series event, huh?
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, already interestingly enough, not so much with the brothers and, you know, whatever their notion of masculinity was, but it does sound like his parents were supportive, which is great. I don't know if I knew that about him.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising for the time.
Yeah.
But as a young adult, he focused on a lot of dancing and acting while he was in college. He was very talented.
Where did he go to college?
Somewhere in Puerto Rico. Okay. I don't know the exact name. Yeah. But yeah, he was very talented. He was a great dancer. And by the time he graduated, like about in the 1960s, he was an actor doing telenovelas or, you know, dancing at some gigs, doing plays, things like that. He also had an assistant very early on in his career. We say assistant.
Very loosely.
Yeah. It's his speculated lover. However, he's never come out about his identity or anything to do with partnership. He always has like cute little catty ways to deflect when he was asked that question. But like a lifelong assistant, like over 40 years, like I don't know. They seem very close.
Well, must have been a good assistant.
Yeah.
And to this day, this assistant hasn't come out and confirmed, said, denied, or perpetuated the rumor mill?
No, nobody has. No,
well,
everyone's been very loyal to him, his family included. Even his family was like, we can speculate, but we don't know. He was very private, even in his personal life. Yeah. In 1969 is when things really started to ramp up. He was called to be like a backup actor on a show because some plans fell through, but instead they wanted to improvise because apparently like he was very into, you know, the occult, mysticism, like asking people, what's your sign? Let me see your palm, like just sort of like coworker talk. But they were like, this could be very interesting. So they had him sort of like improvise and just talk talk about the signs, and he had so much passion for it that even though it was like a 15-20 minute sort of improv, they aired it and people went crazy and like totally flooded Telemundo's line, and Telemundo was like, you have to do this again tomorrow.
Yeah, I think at the time, you said 69?
Yeah, 1969.
Yeah, I don't think there was a lot of that going on, because I know Miss Cleo was like the 80s and 90s, so even like Miss Cleo wasn't out. That might be one to do a good episode on.
Yeah.
So he was originally like an actor. That was his passion, was acting performance. He's a performer.
Performer.
Yeah. Okay.
Performer.
And so when he was doing these readings, they were like on set, and then maybe the directors or the producers saw him doing these readings.
Well, yeah, he was doing them with his coworkers. He would just like randomly talk to people,
like between shoots.
Yeah.
And then he got noticed, and that's when they said this might be a good segment.
Yeah.
Now, was it like on a variety show, or was it like a soap opera? Like, how did they integrate his piece into the show?
Yeah, originally they cast him for some sort of like movie or show where he was playing like a Hindu prince, and they had like this cape and the makeup and just like very bedazzled out, like as we see
Kinda
him.
Liberace
Yeah.
style. Okay.
Yeah. And they were like putting 2 and 2 together. It was like really brilliant to sort of like push him there.
Yeah.
And he was able to, you know, just like say really beautiful like horoscopes. He's very like magnetic because he has a dancing background. He knows how to talk with his hands and like have that stage presence because he does have that set of skills. So they just tried it because they were like, you know, we don't have the original cast. This is all kind of going to hell.
Yeah.
Let's just pilot it.
I see. Interesting. I'm guessing by that point he was living in Miami?
No, this is all in Puerto Rico.
Still in Puerto Rico.
Still in Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the pilot was a hit. Telemundo was like, you have to do this again. And on August 3rd, 1969, his official show launched in Telemundo.
Oh, what was his show?
Las Estrellas y Usted, I think is what it was called.
Okay.
Which is like the stars and you. But I love, like we mentioned in the newborns episode and how we've mentioned since, like everything can have a birth chart, including like an endeavor. And just knowing that it was on August 3rd, the sun was in Leo. So
It's the day after your birthday.
and the day after my birthday, yeah, August 2nd, which is just really fascinating because Leo is a sign of like larger than life, performer, things like that. So that was a great day for a launch.
To get things started, huh? Okay, all right. So keep walking us through his journey.
Yeah, and I mean, after that, of course, immediately like shoom, took off.
So the show was a huge success.
Huge success.
Yeah.
And Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States.
So it was broadcast in the U.S.
Well, he's bilingual. It was more my main point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's bilingual, English and Spanish. And so, yeah, he started becoming like really, really famous in Spanish media first.
Yeah.
And then eventually exploded into like English.
So was the show in English, in Spanish, or bilingual?
It started off for a long time just in Spanish.
Okay.
And then after that, I want to say like Fox or some network like had an English segment with him. He started doing like the gamut of like the talk shows, like the
morning show,
appearances, yeah, like all of that.
Oh, he did that in English media? Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought he just kind of stuck to the Univision Telemundo circle.
That was like the biggest one because like the Latino community just has like this absolute love for him. Mm-hmm. And he was sort of the blueprint. He's the one that did it first because by the time that he got around to like English media, we had like Miss Cleo and like the Long Island Medium and blah, blah, blah. But he's the blueprint in Spanish. And then when he went to the English, you know, side or the English media, like he still had a lot of like, you know, great reputation and like foundation to stand on. He's the Walter Mercado.
Okay.
That was able to break through a very like heteronormative, like Catholic or at the very least sort of Christian conservative society to where like abuelitas were like, shut up, it's coming to my sign.
Yeah. I wonder if he also had influence on that show Doce Corazones. Did you ever watch that show?
Probably. When did that come out?
Oh, that was in the 2000s for sure. Maybe like 05 to like 2013.
I would not be surprised. He really
Well, do you know the premise of that show?
Yeah. There were people of each sign, and then there was one bachelor or bachelorette, and then they had to choose who they liked the most.
And they had it. So they had on that show, they had an astrologer, but it wasn't Walter. But it was very copy and paste of Walter. So the game hosts would do the whole dating part of it, but then they would go to the astrologer and they'd ask the compatibility of the signs.
Yeah.
Also very interesting, kind of a little bit of a tangent, but that host, she's so abundant and has such an exuberant personality, but in her personal life, she's not like that. I actually went to school with her daughter, and I never met her. I think her last name was Pemenchaco. But I met her daughter. Her daughter was really sweet. She was super kind. I wasn't super close with her, but we had a mutual friend. I think we had lunch together one time. But now that you're mentioning that he was the forefront and the pioneer, the maverick on this, I think that did give way to that game show, because it was a very interesting concept, which seems like low-hanging fruit, right? Having a game show or a dating show based on your astrological signs, I think is a great idea, and I don't know why people didn't think of that before. And since, I think this has kind of been the only game show that has that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then having an on-set astrologer. But I remember when it first came out, I even thought, I was like, oh, is that Walter Mercado? But it wasn't. But that's how prolific Walter was, that, it's the best form of flattery is imitation, and it was literally just the Timu version of Walter Mercado.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And with that, he was the OG influencer as well. So, he had shows, books, appearances. They would try to roast him, and he'd roast people back. But that's what made for great television. Things.
Well, yeah. Okay, and I didn't know when I was going to interject this, but I think this is the perfect time. So I know he's an idol and an icon to you, which I find really interesting, because he's not to me. And to me, and I feel kind of bad now because I didn't know how prolific in his story. But in my family, it's ha ha ha, point and laugh. Because there is a very Mexican comedian called Eugenio Derbez that did a parody of him.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to us, in my family, it was always the parody was the funny, and it's almost I don't say you're making fun of, but sometimes with celebrities, you kind of forget that they're humans, right? So, because he was so gaudy and so just open and willing to kind of express that over-the-top campiness, he was a very easy target, especially in the Latino community, because that's not something you see a lot. It was him and Juan Gabriel were the two icons, but even them, they both have those parallels of what isn't said, right? You can make a very clear deduction that they were homosexuals, but they never came out, right? They never fully committed to living, I don't want to say living their truth, because they don't owe it to anybody, but also they're just take me for who I am, and this is a product. But I am sad to say, in my family, he was just the butt of every joke, right? And we would always imitate the Eugenio Derbez caricature of him, and I never took him seriously. I thought it was just funny when he would come on with his little segment. So when I was introduced, he didn't have a full show. I can't remember. It might have been Primer Impacto or one of those.
He had a section in a news segment or in a morning show.
Yeah, where
that was usually his thing.
Yeah, where they would be okay, so now for your daily horoscopes, and then his set was so gaudy and so decorated. He had a throne.
Yes,
and I think
always
even
had capes.
Always have capes. I think even smoke came out, the fog machine.
Yeah.
And I think for me personally, that's why it was so funny, because it was almost a joke, but it wasn't, right? It's just
because it was so over the top.
It's just this goofy character who comes on TV, and it's okay, now the show's almost over. It's when you watch The Weatherman, but it's for the entertainment value, not necessarily the content. So when I met you, and you're oh my gosh, this person was very meaningful in my life, and it was prolific, and he's my inspiration, and I look up to him a lot. It was an interesting feeling for me, because that wasn't the same
Yeah.
You know?
He had that duality of like admiration, but also people would make fun of him.
Yeah, he was,
Yeah.
easy target, right?
Yeah.
Low-hanging fruit. And,
Yeah.
it is kind of sad, but it's also kind of like you said, it's kind of like Dolly Parton, right? People talk about her boobs and she never shies away from it, and she leans into it. And it does sound like he might have been bothered, but he never let people know that he was bothered by it.
Yeah, and I also, now that I've gotten like older and more into my practice, I've been like, I love the theatrics and how he didn't really care, or at least seemed not to care what people thought and said. But I was curious if like his astrological practice was sound. So I listened to like a lot of different clips, and the way that he explains things and he understands like planetary rulers and things like that, like he's not just super surface level like pop astrologer. Like he actually knows his stuff.
Oh, of course.
He knows how to read a chart. Like his knowledge base is very sound.
And I do vaguely remember, because kind of the same thing you mentioned about like grandmas, right? Usually it's grandmas or like stay-at-home moms, like just watching that and listening for their horoscope. But I do never remember him being like super negative, and that could have just been part of like, you don't want to bring it down because it's like an upbeat show, or like you want to keep a rhythm of like digestibility, right, with your reader. So if you're saying, Scorpios, you're going to go through something horrific today, that's not what you want to focus on. So I remember when I would listen to it, it was always very like cheerful or encouragement or a lot of positive affirmations. And from his cadence to his mannerisms to, again, the campiness of it all, it was very comforting. It wasn't for me, but I could see what he was doing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that people love about him, is that he was never like a doom and gloom astrologer, which we definitely have those where it's like, oh my god, the eclipse is coming or whatever. He could always spin it in a positive or caring way.
I see.
And that's sort of what I like about him. And he mentioned this a lot in his documentary, where he's like, even if all of this isn't real, like if you want to say it isn't real, at least it gives people hope and empowerment. And I'm like, that's what I say all the time.
Yeah.
That is wild. Yeah. So
do you think subconsciously you kind of you learned or imitated that from him?
Probably.
Yeah. Because I feel
so.
like, I think with your practice, it's not doom and gloom, but it's very truthful. You've broken some heavy news to some people, but you're always like, this is what the astrology says about the topic, but what are we going to do about it, right?
I believe in people's ability to be resilient and move forward, so.
Yeah. Do you think you base a lot of your practice on him?
I think maybe subconsciously, yes. Yeah, I think so.
He's the mold?
I think so. I just really admire him, and the things that I want to work on now that I'm looking at him and myself, I'm like, oh yeah, a lot of it is to sort of like be a little bit more like him. I think that there are certain things that he did that I wouldn't do, which we could talk about in a little bit, but I do appreciate that he knew his craft. Like, he used tarot cards, he used runes. It's just the way that he presented it was digestible, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make the content digestible, and that's what I admire most about him.
And even with this podcast, right, that was the original intent, was come up with all these amazing topics that you've spent the last 6 years honing on, studying, understanding, and bring it to the public in a way that is understandable. You have me as your co-host that's a skeptic, and we can still have these conversations. And I guess, going back to Walter Mercado, he did do that, right? He made it palatable for people, but with his own flair, which is incredible. Yeah, it's hard for me to break away from that like caricature of him, but the more I learn about him, just being with you, it gives me a little more insight into, regardless of his practice, how prolific he was, he was a good showman, right? And he was doing shit that like nobody was doing. You have to at some points admire that braveness, right? He could have stayed behind closed doors and just done his little practice and maybe just been a run-of-the-mill astrologer. But as you and I know, on this very, very small scale, like there's the astrology practice, but then there's the showbiz practice. And it's not easy, right? And him being a prolific astrologer, but also being such a showman is a lot of work that goes into it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So much work that goes into just being on like that all the time for people. And yeah, a lot of performers, you know, whether they're like on the huge like we're talking Lady Gaga performers, or even like local performers, like myself included, you have this persona that you exude, and then behind closed doors it's very different. Like, I'll be honest, before this podcast, like, I was in a pissed off mood, but as soon as we were like 3, 2, 1 go,
you have to change.
I just felt like that switch flip, and it's just part of being a performer.
And I think for him too, the type of personality he curated and cultivated, I feel like he could never turn it on, because if you saw Walter Mercado in public, like, he was probably usually all to the nines, and if he took a picture, he wasn't like, oh, here's a fan. Like, I think he still embodied like his persona. And not to say there's not authenticity, right? Everything we do in art is a part of us, but there's times to turn it on and turn it off. But I think the persona he developed, it must have been really hard for him to turn it off even in public, right?
Yeah, because he was always known for being like extra. Even Versace like made him a cape. He had so many capes. Yeah, a lot of designers sent him like custom capes. He had a lot of capes commissioned. Like, he was always dressed in that. Even if you weren't listening to the horoscope, like, part of the show is just like, what is he wearing today? Yeah.
Well, it's like the Mexican luchadores that go out with their mask, right? They'll go out to like fancy dinners and fancy restaurants and soirees, and they have their like bedazzled mask. I mean, it's part of his identity. Yeah. The cape is such an icon, huh?
Oh yeah.
And the hair,
absolutely. Yeah.
He kind of looks like a grandma almost.
Yeah, like a stylish grandma. Yeah, there are a lot of memes about that. So, yeah.
And his rings.
Oh, yeah. He always had a ton of rings and big jewelry.
Yeah, I remember that. He had like, well, I remember his capes with the chain that would connect the cape was also very like gothic and just blingy, to say the least. And he would always have these crazy rings.
Yeah, because he talks with his hands a lot, so it would sort of help like command attention.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about his signature, right? You have your signature, and I think for me, that was part of, again, sorry, going back to like the making fun of him, that to me was like the funniest part. So Genio del Res, well, what is his signature?
Mucho, mucho amor.
Yeah, but he would go like, te mando mucho, mucho amor, right? And then Eugenio del Res would say, te mando todo, todo, todo lo que me sobra, which is like, I'm sending you all my remains. But I think just having that signature catchphrase, it was, again, so iconic that when I would watch it through the horoscopes and just be like giddy waiting for him to do his signature, because I thought it was funny. I was like, this shit's hilarious. And again, going back, I saw the parody of him and I would just laugh. And even with our family, sometimes when we were being silly, we would be like, we would do the little signature.
Well, I mean, my signature at the end of the podcast comes kind of from that concept.
Yeah, your signature is
remember, the magic within you makes the world a more beautiful place.
Yeah, and his is, I'm sending you all the love.
Yeah, I'm sending you a lot of love.
Yeah.
Ending with positivity.
Yeah. What a showman, huh?
Yeah, I love him, and he had such a fabulous life, but you know, it does have its dark side, so I'm excited to talk about that because it wasn't all rainbows and sunshines. Yeah. He did get justice in the end, but we'll talk about those specifics right after this break. Today's episode is brought to you by us, Kythera Collective. If you've been vibing with the energy of the show, then you're going to love the Kythera Club over on Patreon. It's a space that I built for the cosmic, the curious, and the slightly chaotic. You know who you are. With 3 delicious tiers to choose from, we start with the chocolate level at $4 a month, which gains you access to weekly horoscopes and the exclusive Unhinged podcast, where I say things that don't make it to this main feed. It's sweet, it's spicy, and it's just for you. Next, we have the cafe level at $7 a month. This is where things really start to get cooking. You'll receive access to exclusive workshops, monthly virtual hangouts, and a private Discord community where you can chat directly with me and receive exclusive behind-the-scenes updates. It's magical, cozy, and a little unhinged in the best way. Finally, we have the tequila level. This is the VIP lounge. At $25 a month, you'll receive everything from the previous tiers, plus a personal 15-minute one-on-one session with myself or David each month, and discounts if you want to extend the session. It's a whole vibe and a powerful way to receive personalized guidance. So if you've been laughing along with us, crying or rage screaming in agreement, come hang out with us at the Kythera Club. Head over to patreon.com/JenCalo and choose your tier. If you want to sponsor an episode and advertise with us, go to our website, www.jencalo.com. All right, now back to the show.
So as much positivity as there was with his life and the over-the-top character and larger-than-life character, there was a lot of darkness in his life too, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, he had to stop making content in 2006 because a few years before that, he finally got an English-speaking agent. I think his name was Bill Bakula.
When did he move to the U.S.?
That I don't remember.
No.
He was like flying around everywhere. He was just a star.
I do think he was based in Miami, though. A lot of the stars that like worked for Univision and Telemundo, because that's where the headquarters of Univision is Miami.
Yeah. Well, he got this agent, and Walter was very trusting and also slightly people-pleasing. And so he just trusted Bill Bakula, his agent manager, to do what was best and wouldn't screw him over. But in the contract, his name, his likeness, and his IP were Bill Bakula's in perpetuity forever. And I think there was like a really crazy line like throughout the universe. That was like through time and space, Walter belonged to Bill Bakula.
So
allegedly.
he didn't even own his own IP.
He didn't own his name.
Now, it's super sad because that's like not the first time that's happened in like the industry. TLC, I remember they had their famous speech when they won a Grammy. They're like, we can't even afford like food or rent, and they were winning a Grammy. So it's not the first time like producers or agents have taken advantage. On that note, Taylor Swift just won all her music back, so she owns it again.
Nice.
But anyways, you talked about him being like trusting and a people pleaser. Do you think it was and this could be speculation or do you think it was like he knew what he was doing and to not get into conflict he just agreed with it, or they put the veil over him and he had no idea what he was signing?
Well, the only people that know the truth are the people that were in the situation, but allegedly, according to Bill Bakula, he was like both sides were represented by a very competent attorney, and Walter was very heavily
Compensated?
Sorry, I was going to say the other one.
Constipated?
Poor Walter.
Yeah, no.
I didn't mean to be dirty like that. But, yeah, he received a lot of money, supposedly.
For his likeness, IP.
IP, all of that. But Walter was like, not really. And also, in what world would I like sign my own name away? Because Walter's legal name is Walter Mercado. It wasn't
So
a
that's
stage
what I'm
name.
saying. Like, did he knowingly sign, or they kind of hid everything in legalese?
That's what I'm saying.
That's the debate.
Bill is saying that everyone knew what they were doing, and Walter said, no, I didn't. I just trusted you, and it was hidden within the legalese.
Got it.
And because it's his legal name, like, there's nothing he can do. It's not like he could pivot. He could go to another station. He could, like, start a new venture. Like, his name, his likeness, everything. Bill owned him, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this came out in 2006, right?
Well, in 2006, he just had to stop making content because, like,
He didn't want to continue.
he didn't want to continue. He wasn't being compensated fairly, allegedly. And that's when he realized, like, how deep in the hole he was with his agent. Like, oh, this man owns me. And it got to the point where, like, because Walter stopped, Bill was recycling horoscopes. So if you've been paying attention to, like, the 80 plus episodes now, nothing ever
fully repeats.
Nothing fully repeats, like, just because we get to, let's say, August 2nd here, August 2nd in the next year, like, the generational planets are going to be moving somewhere else. They're going to be doing different things. Like, nothing is ever the same. So it really hurt Walter, and it would hurt me as an astrologer too, like, to see your manager recycling, like, just everyday horoscopes when it's like that's not factual.
Basically, his work was being dragged through the mud. Right? He was a show and a horse and pony show, just being kind of paraded. Wow.
But the one thing I will say that, like, the documentary did show is, like, there are two sides to every story. I fully believe that.
Of course.
Actually, there are three sides to every story. Person A, person B, and then the objective truth. Because Walter did say, like, I never said that I predict, like, winning lottery numbers, and then they cut to a commercial where Walter said, call now and you'll get winning lottery numbers. Yeah. So there are things like that it's like, I don't condone that. But, you know, I don't know how much pressure he was under like, his agency to, like, say things and sign things.
Yeah, and going back, like, it's business. Like, unfortunately, sometimes it just comes down to that, right? And then somebody who's in it is hard to sometimes differentiate between, like, the passion and the business of it. Like, we have a business consultant, and one of her big things is, like, always remember at the end of the day, like, you have a business. So for Walter, I can see how all these opportunities could have been presented to him, and I can see how it's so easy to sign on a dotted line, and you get all these promises made, and you get all these opportunities that you know you would have never had, but then you're kind of stuck between a hard and a rock place where somebody's saying, if you don't sign or you don't agree to this commercial or to endorse this product, like, these opportunities don't come along much, right? So I could definitely see that. And then you said he grew up in poverty, and you know, there was a big carrot to hold over him.
Yeah. And I mean, he also had, like, a psychic hotline or a psychic network, and he was basically like, oh yeah, if you call, you'll get connected to me. But it was like 4,000 psychics that, like, the agency employed. It's sort of like when a famous artist gets, like, really famous, and then, like, their studio makes a thing, but the artist, like, maybe just signs it or
embellishes it.
It was very similar to that. So he had a big, like, psychic hotline, which, you know, can be seen as, like, a little cheesy and stuff, but
predatory
sometimes. But ultimately, he did win his court case after, like, 6 or 7 years of back and forth.
So he sued him for his likeness and all his property.
So he got, like, his name back, his autonomy back. So that was very exciting. But then after that, you know, age, health issues. I think 2 days after he won, he, like, got a heart attack.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, you know, unfortunately, like, health and time, it all just kind of went downhill. And one of his last projects was, I think, an art exhibit, and then this documentary, Mucho Mucho Amor.
When you say art exhibit, like actual art, like he was an artist?
They were showcasing his capes.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
And basically, like, doing an homage to him. And then Mucho Mucho Amor came out in 2020. But, like, he was interviewing back and forth with Netflix. So they were able to get, like, a lot of, you know, info and, like, personal stories from him before he died.
When did he pass away?
2019.
2019.
But the documentary came out in 2020.
What did he die from?
That I don't remember exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a good understanding of who he is, what he was, what he offered. I like that you do the whole picture, right? You're not, even though you admire him and you can appreciate his work, you can also see some of his shortcomings and say, these are some things that maybe I don't completely agree with and have complete, you know, I don't completely sign off on that. But overall, I mean, I think with the opportunities he was given, where he came from, just a fantastic showman at the very least, right? I don't really know too much about the astrology part, but you're validating that as an astrologer, but as someone who knows how hard it is to put a production together, like, you gotta at least admire that.
Oh, right? Yeah, absolutely.
All right, now let's get into the astrology of the astrologer. This is an interesting one.
Yes, yeah. I'm so excited because this is so interesting. There are 2 birthdays quoted for him. So,
2?
Yes, so he usually says, and the Netflix documentary says, March 9th, 1932. But there's another birthday floating around, April 25th, 1931, which is...
That's completely different. It's not even close.
Yeah, it's like a year and change apart, which is fascinating. And I actually learned about this from Eliza because we were talking back and forth back in 2020 when we were watching Mucho Mucho Amor. And I was like, oh my God, did you see it? And she was like, did you know he has 2 birthdays? I was like, what?
That's crazy.
And it's so fascinating. Him and his team always said 1932, but the 1931 date has a AA rating, meaning that the data came from the state a family member with a birth certificate, state registries, baptism, etc. The most reliable sources.
So 1931
was his actual birthday.
Wow.
That's why in the beginning I said, according to his documentary, he was born in 1932.
Interesting.
Which is what he signed off on.
Yeah.
I think both are really important to look at because 1931 is who he really is and 1932 is who he wanted to be perceived as.
Oh, I never thought about it like that.
Well, that's why he chose that specific date because he's like, this is who I want Walter Mercado, the entertainer, to be.
And because he was such a personality, I mean, who's to say that like his cardinal body was, the 1931, but like a personality could have been born on 1932, right?
Yeah, it's just so iconic and so many levels of like genius as an astrologer to like
and an entertainer
to like rebrand herself like that. Well, let's look at 1931 and who he really was. He was born when the sun was in Taurus and it was making a trine, meaning it was in the same element around 120 degrees away to Neptune in Virgo. So these are both earth signs, and Neptune is a planet of fame. It's one of the things that it does control, and it's making this very positive aspect. So we could see how he was like catapulted into being this famous person. He also had his moon in Leo conjunct Mars, meaning that they were within 5 degrees of each other. So Leo, the entertainer, bigger than life, gaudy. Mars is executing and sort of how you execute your life's mission. So he was meant to be famous, but he did it in such an over-the-top, extravagant way.
Like he really went for it.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, definitely having an affinity for the regal and for the spotlight. And he also had a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, again, meaning that they were very, very close when he was born. In Cancer, so he had an abundance of love and compassion to give that transformed the world.
Got it. So what are his big three then? Taurus, Leo, and Cancer?
We don't know his rising, but we do know his sun and his moon, which is Taurus and Leo.
Okay, so Leo moon. And why don't we know his rising?
Because not everyone takes exact times, and back then I don't think they took exact times.
Okay, but you said the sun was out, so is that when we can kind of like deduct like you did with the...
Well, the sun is, even if it's nighttime, the sun is somewhere.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
But your best guess for his rising would be what? Or no way to know?
No way to know.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure there are people that like did the math. I can't, like, it's very complicated. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So you talk about his Leo with the showmanship, right? And literally his mane too. That's the thing about Leos, right? They really go crazy for that mane.
Oh yeah.
And then his Taurus we've talked about Tauruses.
Yeah, very like glamorous, sensual, ruled by Venus. They like to live luxuriously. Mm-hmm. Yeah. However, it could be seen almost as greedy, which is probably why he was like, this is like, if people do chart readings on me, like, this is not going to look good. It's going to look like I'm only in it for the money.
Do you think he thought through all that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he changed it, because 1932 persona is, was born as Sun, Mars, Mercury in Pisces, which is a very psychic element. So that means he had the ability to channel and the affinity for spirituality with like all of these major components in Pisces.
So his 1932, what are his big three for 1932?
Again, we don't know the rising, but we would know that the sun was in Pisces, the moon was in Aries, and then we don't know rising, but then Mercury would have been in Pisces, Venus would have been in Taurus.
So his two signs, if it was 1932, would have been Pisces and Mercury and
Aries.
Aries, okay. Ooh, and I remember with Aries, like they're super fiery, right? They kind of... Well, interestingly enough, vaguely from what I remember on the Aries, they're kind of like known as the warriors, like... We'll jump in head first and ask questions later. Mm-hmm. Do you think that was part of like his like thick skin of like nothing bothered me, nothing?
He wanted to be perceived as like, I'm gonna say it how it is and nothing bothers me.
Let me ask you, which of these elements or signs do you think, apart from like the sociological implications, led him to maybe not live his truth within his sexuality?
Interesting. So in his 1931 birthday, he has that Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, but then he has an opposition to Saturn in, give me a second, in Capricorn.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
So
explain it to me.
So opposition means that things are about 180 degrees away. So because we knew that Jupiter and Pluto were close together, they're basically in the same bubble, right?
Yeah.
So we could look at them as one unit. And then we have Saturn about 180 degrees away. And they want the same thing. They're just arguing about how they're going to achieve it.
I see.
So Jupiter is abundance, especially in feminine energy because it's in Capricorn. Pluto is transformation, and definitely like I would say transforming like what it is to be like a man, a Latino man, like an outwardly like different person. And then Saturn is the planet of, and especially in Capricorn, like of business, of boundaries, of expectations.
Do you think, do you think him not coming out in his mind was like, this is just bad for business?
Yes, absolutely.
But I mean, he is so prolific and such an icon, even in the LGBTQ plus community, that like he had to have known. So is it more like, do you think that was also part of his showmanship? Like don't worry about my sexuality, worry about me as like the person.
Yeah.
Transcending even like his humanistic.
Oh yeah, he would say that all the time. Like I have sex with life. Like I'm just bigger than life, so don't worry about it.
Like don't worry about what I'm doing behind closed doors.
And there's a saying in Spanish like what you can see, don't ask questions about.
Yeah.
Like don't ask stupid questions if it's obvious.
Do you think it would have been the same product? And I'm now referring to him as Walter Mercado, the product. Do you think it would have been the same product if he would have been open with his sexuality and come out?
He would have been canceled. He wouldn't have reached the same fame.
But okay, so that's what I'm saying though. But like, you knew where he was, but literally just the fact of not saying it protected him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's taking a stance. It's like, for example, if companies come out and say, like, I stand here politically, you're going to have the other side boycott them. Versus if they don't say anything at all, then both sides are going to be like, I wonder, but they haven't said one thing or the other, so I'm still going to shop
So
there.
you can't really, it's like a veil. Yeah.
And a lot of his like building, like he had to build in the 70s, 80s, 90s to obtain that fame. And like, yeah, there were queer people, but like there were AIDS, there were still anti-gay laws, like there was a lot of homophobia, like there were just a lot of things to where like
it wasn't good for business.
And he always said, I live 100 years ahead. And honestly, if like he was who he was like now, he'd be the biggest thing like on TikTok and Instagram. Like, he would have been able to do whatever he wanted, but unfortunately, like he was born 100 years too early.
Got it.
To live his truth.
1930s. Yeah, that's a while back ago. We're talking Great Depression. We're talking World War II. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a very interesting life to be born in.
And it's not like now where as long as you pay your phone bill and your internet bill, like you can have an audience. Like you were really dependent on like
the networks,
the agents, the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
There were a lot more gatekeepers.
Yeah. Well, I learned a lot about Walter. I have a lot more respect for him. I don't know if as an astrologer, because again, I can't validate that, but just as a showman, right? And this is the second time I'm going to use Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift is the product. Walter Mercado was the product. Like, to be able to sell yourself and be successful and sell your persona as a success is not easy, right? Because it's easy to behind, like an actor that fucks up a movie, it's easy to say like, well, maybe the movie sucked, the director sucked, the script sucked. But like, this is him as a person. Like, there is nothing else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you fuck it up, you're fucking up your identity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any closing thoughts on your boy, your icon?
I still love him. He's still an icon, and I hope I did this episode justice, and I hope you learned a lot about him.
Yeah, he wasn't enthralled in controversy either, right? It's not like he really bad things.
The only controversy was like he was involved in the sort of scammy like psychic hotlines and then the legal battles, but not much more about him as a person.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now let's get to some Or any closing thoughts on Walter?
No, that was it.
That was it. Good episode. Let's get to some comments. So, at Mejor Amiga HQ on Instagram said for the Sagittarius episode,
Throwback.
I know, real throwback. I keep wanting to chime in, and I was like, wait, this is not a live stream. I love that because that is the purpose, right? It's a conversation. I know it's a one-sided conversation through the camera, but we're very active on socials, so you can always talk to us there, and I'm glad you're able to interact and kind of feel that connection.
Yeah, and then she also commented on the palmistry episode, listening to the palmistry episode, and I just had to pause because I heard the part where you said you don't see astrology in that negative light. There are no bad signs or transits, and I'm like, yes, I'm so thankful for Threads and finding you because I believe and guide the same way. So Mejor Amiga HQ is an astrologer in Tucson, Arizona, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's actually hosting like an astro speed dating, which is like super duper cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so shout out. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And yes, I'm so happy that Threads brought us together.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That palmistry episode, we got way off the rails. We said some interesting shit. I don't know what possessed us that day, but it was an interesting listen back. I hope y'all liked it. I hope you enjoyed that one, but it was super fun.
Yeah, I got a little unhinged. I should have saved it for unhinged.
Yeah. Well, if there's ever a time to switch up your signature, I think today's the day.
Yeah, we can try it. But definitely get in touch with us if you want anything, if you want to schedule a session, if you want to leave a comment. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, at Jen Kahlo and jenkahlo.com. And remember, if you like the show, rate it and give it 5 stars wherever you listen.
Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay. Remember, the magic within you makes the world a more beautiful place, and I am sending you mucho, mucho amor. Blessed be and signing off.
Bye.